Nice to have you here on this week's episode on Real Gist with Moonbeing. On today's gist, I'll be talking on when to quit a marriage. Marriage, we know, is an institution preordained by God Almighty. Coming from the religious perspective, God created Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden. He was alone until God considered it proper to give him a helpmate. That was when and how Eve was brought to him. I believe you are familiar with the story. In everyday life, young men and women come together to celebrate their union as husband and wife. The purpose of marriage could be for procreation or companionship. Every marriage has its tenets, be it statutory, Islamic, Christian, or traditional. However, because of the challenges of marriage, there is a time when a party of the marriage will have to decide whether to go on with the marriage or to quit. This is when we say, time to quit a marriage. Now, what are the circumstances that should present itself that will warrant the parties, or maybe the husband or the wife, to have to decide if the marriage should continue or not? One of the fundamental characteristics is when the marriage has broken irretrievably. When the two parties, the husband and wife, can no longer live under one roof. When there is allegation of infidelity. When there is domestic violence that leads to threats of life. When there is loss of conjugal rights, that is, when the husband and wife no longer cohabit. Simple explanation, when the husband and wife no longer have sex, talk more of making love. When the man has abdicated his fundamental role as the husband. I mean, when he no longer provides for the family. Don't misinterpret this point. I'm not talking of the situation where he lost his job, or his business collapsed, or he's sick. He's working hard for the family. He's trying to come up again so he can provide. That's not what I'm saying. We know that there are situations where the man can be mean, where he will find it difficult, where he no longer feels it's necessary for him to provide for feeding, pay the children fees, school fees and hospital bills and all that. I have this friend whom I call my own sister. She told me that the husband will bring the money out from his pocket in bulk, show it to her, and tell her to her face. He will not give her the money that she and her children will suffer. He will not pay school fees. He won't provide for the feeding. This same man lavishes the money on his numerous girlfriends, comes back home when he's empty. That is when he realizes that he has a wife and children. There are worse cases than this. These reasons are factors for dissolution of so many marriages. But today's gist is centered on domestic violence. What is domestic violence? Domestic violence is the humanization of a party to a marriage. Some husbands have turned their wives into punching bags in the name of marriage. There are cases where wives are beaten to the state of coma. Some women, as a result of beating from their husbands, have lost vital parts of their body and are consequently disfigured. These men blame their wives for their inadequacies, their inability to make progress in life. Some tag their wife bad luck. And this happens or keeps happening in African setting where people act primitively. Domestic violence has led to the loss of life of so many married women. The recent case of the gospel singer Osinachi Nwachukwu presents a bitter experience of domestic violence. She was being abused by the husband, but she never owned up. She was afraid of what people would say, considering her position as a gospel singer and an evangelist. Now everybody is blaming her for not speaking up. The friends, the colleagues, the family, everybody kept quiet because she begged them not to say, not to speak up, that the man would change. She was afraid of the society. Of course, if she had divorced the man, nobody would have understood her part, her story, especially the church. They would stop calling her for programs and crusades. Some people will say she's a disgrace to the kingdom. Some people will blame her for their members that backslided. My fellow bloggers and social media users will tag all manner of things to her name. And the husband probably will make sure he tarnishes her image and kills her ministry and career. For the fear of all this, Osena Chinwachukwu died as a result of domestic violence. And I ask you today, will you keep quiet? Will you remain calm? Will you, for the fear of what the society will say, of how people will judge you, and keep quiet until you die in that marriage? No, it is time to quit that marriage. Do not be afraid. There are cases where the men are being abused. Don't forget that. There are wives that beat up their husband. Marriage is marriage. Quit that marriage if you find yourself in such situation. Every marriage has its procedure for dissolution. Ask questions. Make research. Be it marriage by act, Christian marriage, Islamic marriage, traditional marriage. There are procedures to end such marriages. Do not keep calm. Don't die in silence. There is an adage that says it's better to point to the children where their mother is than pointing to the children the grave of their mother. Thank you for being part of this program. Do not forget to subscribe, share, and like. Also, let us know your thoughts by joining the conversation in the comment section.